Hey everybody, it's Clint Powell, and today's episode is brought to you by two great sponsors. One is my friends at JB Millworks. Jeremy Price and his staff do wonderful work. I'm going to tell you how to get a hold of them first. jbmillworks.com, or you can call them at 706-965-6940. And then I'm going to tell you why. You ready? They have great products. They have doors, they have stair parts, trim work, anything you're wanting for remodel or new construction. But they also have beautiful plantation shutters. Make your house look gorgeous. And high quality, energy saving, gorgeous, beautiful sun-clad windows. I know a little bit about sun-clad windows. I know the owner of the company, Frank Anderson, and I'm telling you right now, if you have a home and you're wanting to get the best of both worlds, high energy savings and yet a beautiful wood look on the interior, it is gorgeous inside and outside wood-clad windows from Sun Windows. jbmillworks.com or 706-965-6940. Also, a sponsor of today's episode is Lori Monteith with Keller Williams, or as she is known on Facebook and Google, Team Monteith. Lori started in the real estate industry back when everybody was getting out of it with the great economic downturn. She made the most of it. She pulled through. She does business the right way. And in a world where there's all these multiple offers, houses are not staying on the market long, you're wanting to move or you're wanting to sell, you need someone who has a track record of getting things done. Find out more about her. Team Monteith is on Facebook. You can also Google Lori Monteith, but you can call them at 315-0042, 423-315-0042, or you can find out more at findchattanoogarealestate.com. Enjoy today's episode. How many times have you heard a radio host say, I wish our listeners could have heard the conversation I had with our guest during the break? I've heard it and said it many times over the years. That is where this podcast was born. We'll go in deeper with our guests to find out more about them and learn life lessons from some influential people. Thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe and share, as well as rate and review the podcast on iTunes. I'm Clint Powell. This is During the Break. Let's do it. Welcome to During the Break podcast. I'm the host, Clint Powell. Thank you for finding us. Do what I always ask you to do. Share us, review us, download us, all those things that selfishly help me grow this podcast and keep it out there. And thank you to everybody who's already done that. Also, don't forget to go back and listen to past podcasts. Last week I had Paul Grove on, who is the president and CEO of PBS here in Chattanooga, Public Broadcast Station. Awesome conversation. I also had my little mini podcast on Tuesday where I talked about white privilege, income privilege, and the number one privilege is being born in America, and sometimes I think we forget that. It was a little bit of accountability as well, so I hope you enjoyed that. But in continuing the long line, the long tradition, the 2-month tradition of having people in studio for my long-form conversation every week who are smarter than I am, and they've done a lot more for this country than I've already done. With that being said, I think that's enough ass-kissing involved. Let's move forward and actually do the introductions. Daniel Wysong and William Connell. Now, do you go by William or Bill?
William, anything but Bill.
I'm not calling you Bill.
All right, good.
You're Will from now on. I know that.
There you go.
Daniel, Will, thank you for coming in.
It's great to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. Both of you tell me what branch of military that you served in.
United States Marine Corps.
The Marine Corps as well. That's the only branch.
That's the somewhere out there. I think you've got two or three friends listening, going, "That's just not true." We had you on the radio show, the Buyers Market here in Chattanooga a couple weeks ago, and I was joined by Andy Craig and Corey Hammond. Right?
That's correct.
Are they both Marines, or one of them's
Corey was Marine Corps and Andrew Craig was Air Force.
How did y'all let an Air Force guy in? I mean, was that did y'all know he was Air Force when y'all?
We did.
Oh,
we did.
Yeah, he was motivated.
At the end of the day, we like to give everyone a little grief and razz everyone, but we all recognize at the end of the day we're all brothers in the same sense that we all served in some capacity together.
When he was here, I said, man, I need all the branches that served in. I went, hey, he goes, don't say a word. Don't even say a word. I'm just saying, I see a trend here, man. Now, with all that being said, before we talk about why I got you in, thank you both for your service. I know that you're both very comfortable with that. And I say that because we had this conversation off the air. But they're like, that always makes me feel odd when people do that. You appreciate it, but you don't know what you're supposed to say back, right? Is that hard to deal with? Is it difficult?
For me, it's not hard to deal with. It's just more of what I did for my country,
right,
and for everyone, and mostly for my family. you talked about privilege a moment ago.
Yeah.
America being one of the greatest privileges we have was being born into this great country. And it was my privilege to get to serve my country. It's not, a lot of people think that they deserve to, or it's their right to be in the military, and that's not really true.
Right.
You've got to do certain things in order to earn that right. And it was my privilege. I personally have always just had a hard time accepting gratitude for my service because I don't feel like I did as much as I could or I could have done. And there's some out there that gave more than I did, obviously.
And you kind of feel like you did what you expected of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you do what you feel like you're expected to do, it's like, I hate to say this, but dads that take care of their kids.
Right.
Yeah.
I take care of my kids. Well, you're supposed to take care of your kids. That was a comedian that said that one time, Does it bother you, Daniel, at all?
I feel the same way as well, but I just usually give them the Chick-fil-A answer. It was my pleasure.
There you go. That's pretty good. I like that service. We're here to serve.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's what we are. We're servants.
Well, I 100% going to talk about a lot about Reference Point, which is the new organization that you and those other guys we talked about, and I'm sure there's other people involved as well. But I told y'all up front that the format of a podcast allows us to talk more conversation, and people want to hear about what you're doing for local veterans, but they also want to know the people behind the mission. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But the reason I brought all that up, if you're a listener tuning in and wondering why I asked them, does that make them uncomfortable? I started a conversation, and I'm telling you right now, if you want to have some sort of moral outrage as a person who maybe didn't serve, and even if you did serve, just go to YouTube and type in the words stolen valor. Go look at the videos of people, and we talked about this. There's two types: the people that really have some mental problems, right? And then there's people out there that are truly trying to disrespect the uniform. I had been watching that. A friend of mine had posted one. I watched it, and I said, well, how many of those are there out there? And I started watching it, and I was amazed at the number of people who, for some reason, and this is going to sound weird, I kind of understand. I'm not condoning what they do. But the guilt some people have of not serving. I think everybody, every grown man, when you get to a certain age, look back at people like yourselves who served, like my dad served. And kind of part of you wishes I'd have done that. You know what I'm saying? So I get the point of somebody going, dang, I wish I'd have done that. But to go to the extreme of actually acting like you did it, knowing you're going to get busted, I don't get that at all. Don't understand that a bit. But I do understand the regret part. The regret part.
I talk to a lot of older guys, and that's a lot of the regret part. They say, I wish I had served. I wish I had gone and served my country when I was younger.
Yeah.
I hear it a lot. It's funny that, people that you thought that you looked up to as a child are talking to you now and saying, well, I wish I had done what you did.
Oh, yeah. Well, how old are you?
34.
There you go. I'm 50. I wish I'd have done what you did. I mean, and it's not an uncomfortable thing to say, but I think there's something about, there's degrees of it. And this is great conversation to have. I almost feel like, there's certain things you're supposed to do. You're supposed to vote. You may not like the system. You may not like the candidates. And you can, if you don't feel like voting and you're going to, as a protest, that's fine. But if you've got a track record of not voting, I don't think that's serving the country like you're supposed to serve. I'm supposed to do that for my country, right? There's some things you're supposed to do for your country or just for your community, just as a good steward of the freedom we've been given. And one of the things as I've gotten older and look back on a bunch of my buddies who went to the first round of golf, when back in the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, I look back on it and there is part of you that kind of wishes going, I think I should have done more than I could have. Now, with that being said, I always say this too. It's the same thing as I feel about the policemen and firemen, first responders. And I think you'll understand. And if not, we can talk about it. But that's the American spirit. And I always try to tell people, if you feel guilty about this, no matter what, if you feel like you could do more, one, find something to do now. Support a group like I'm helping you guys, right?
Yeah.
Second thing is, it takes a special person to do that. But that's the American spirit. Because someone didn't serve doesn't mean you don't have the American spirit and wouldn't serve if you had to. That's what I told people before. So listen, man, because I've got buddies who really suffer from the guilt part of it. And you say to yourself, there are people that go and do that because they feel led to. But if push comes to shove and it has to happen, there's a lot of people out there that would step up. With that being said, if you didn't, I completely understand the regret.
Yeah, I think that's just a part. You talked about the American way. Mm-hmm. I think that is part of the American way. I don't care what end of the spectrum you end up on, whether you did not serve ever in any capacity or even people with multiple combat tours. Anyone that you talk to, if they want to be real about it and get down to the nitty gritty of it, they all have a regret in some way. I could have done this or I could have done that. You know, reading Chris Kyle's book, that guy was incredible. The deadliest American sniper in this conflict.
Right.
He had regrets. He didn't understand why he was back home. His family needed him, but he didn't understand why he was back home. He wanted to be back over there because he had guilt about not being over there to protect the guys that he was protecting while he was there. So I don't care what end of the spectrum you're on.
You're going to live with some guilt. Yeah.
You are. You know, and there's always, well, what if or what could have happened? You know, I was medically discharged, and a lot of people don't know this. I'm probably dropping a bombshell. Of course, Daniel knows. Closest people know. My wife knows. But I tried to go back this last year. I sold a company last January, and my wife and I were on board. I was going to go back in some capacity, and I can't. I'm too old. They won't take me back now.
How old are you?
I'm 35.
Oh, okay.
So I've, even with my prior service, I've passed the threshold of being able to go back. Even though my knee's better, I've recouped it, and I feel like I could go
How'd you hurt
back.
your knee, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I hurt my knee during a training accident, fast roping out of a helicopter.
All right.
But it was just a training incident. You know, it was nothing. I wasn't being shot at. That's a guilt that I had.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
my injury was silly, stupid.
Yeah.
You know, and I always look back. Well, what if I could have done this or that better? Where would I be today? I'd probably still be in, but I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have my 3 kids. I wouldn't have met these guys. I wouldn't have been able to start this nonprofit with them. There's other ways to serve, and there's other ways to help people.
Right. So do you have regrets too, Daniel? I mean, do you look back thinking you should have stayed longer, gone back, or are you free and clear?
No, I'm not free and clear.
If you're free and clear, by the way, I got some advice. I need some advice from you when you leave.
So I went to Iraq, and the next deployment up from my unit was a trip to Afghanistan. And that's the trip that I wanted to go on. I'd already been to Iraq. It was relatively quiet, and I wanted to go to Afghanistan because that's where the action was.
Right.
And they pulled me off that deployment the night before they made the decision, before they formed the platoon. They pulled me off the deployment, and I didn't go. But my friend Greer, who was supposed to go to Iraq with us, we had finished training to go to Iraq, and he was in my fire team. We had been... I don't think a good way to put this.
Mic when you're about to
It's
say
a podcast.
We had been there had been some alcohol involved, and someone went to give him a high five and missed and hit him in the eye with his thumb and tore the flap of his eye open.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, like, weirdest thing that could have happened.
Right.
I don't drink, so I ended up driving him up to San Diego to take him to the docks up there at Pendleton. So he missed that deployment. So he goes on the Afghanistan deployment, and I don't. And while he was in Afghanistan, and this is actually his anniversary, August 8th,
Right.
he got killed.
Yeah.
He was injured August 6th and succumbed to his injuries on the 8th.
Wow. I'm sorry.
So,
Whenever you hear stories like that, and I hate to say it nowadays, but there's a certain amount of glory that people look at now. You know, when you come back, we talked a little bit about this before we came on the air. If you came back from Vietnam, that was to me one of the groups that were received so differently than the first 2 and the Korean, and now the anybody that's gone the last 20 years. So it seems like now when you come back, like you said, you have guys telling you thank you for your service all the time, or can I buy your meals? And there seems like a lot of that. I think sometimes when people have that stolen valor, they look at it going, I want that, right? What they don't understand, or what they fail to understand, and this is why it pisses people like you guys off, is on the other side of that, hey, thank you for your service, are buddies and friends that don't get that now because they're over there, or they're back, but
or they didn't make
it home. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I think, it's to bring that full circle. There's guys like your friend, and guys that you know, and guys that my dad knows that didn't get the chance to have the kids, or put a bid in on a job today like you did. When you do your tree service, or what my dad did, raise a family. And I would imagine, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I would imagine there's some sense sometimes of looking at that going, man, there's some guilt involved in there. There's some regret involved in there. There's some things that come along with that whether you were in conflict or not, if you know people that gave it all, there's got to be part of you that goes, that's real. That's as real as that shit can get. That's real life stuff.
yeah, it's a different type of guilt. There's a survivor's guilt,
Right.
and then there's, like Will said, there's a guilt of not being able to go and do what you were supposed to do, what was
Right.
required of you because of an injury or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to say this to make myself sound like a sociopath or anything, but you always wonder, like Daniel just said, to go and do what I was supposed to do. I've got a beautiful wife, 3 beautiful kids. I've got a great house, great family, everyone that supports me. But there is still something that pulls at me, and I want to go to continue to serve my country.
Right.
And I'm going to make sure my wife doesn't listen to this podcast, because what I'm going to say next, I don't know where the point of being happy would be.
Right.
How much, when we were looking at me possibly going back in last year and we were talking about the different things that I could do, she kept saying, well, is there anything less dangerous that you could try to sign up for? And I said, that's the whole point. You're not getting the whole point. Like, I want to go back, and I don't want to have any more regrets.
But asking somebody who loves you more than life probably to understand that's probably a little, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That's asking too much. You got children, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if your daughter came to you in 20 years and said the same thing, you'd be like, no.
Yeah, no.
And you would
No.
you would cheer it inside. You'd be
Yeah.
like, look at my badass wants to go, but no. You
Yeah.
can't. So that's a little much to ask somebody that loves, hey, you understand why I want to go stand in front, right? I don't understand that at all. Don't do that. I love you, you know.
Yeah.
But that, again, is there's a certain, and I said this too, and I think you'll both agree, you can't have everybody that has your mindset or your mindset, Dan.
No.
You have to have a mix of
it
people.
has to be a team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got to have a team of people.
Somebody's got to make the bullets. Somebody's got to put out the plan. Somebody has to do the logistics, right?
Right. You've got to have your admin clerks. They're just as important. People got to get paid. Got to have your bullets, beans, and Band-Aids.
Well, and this is the cool thing about what I've watched inside the fraternity of veterans is you guys can give each other as much crap as you want.
Yeah.
If you're an admin, whatever you call it, you can give them as much grief up and down. But when, like you said before, when we started this thing, when it's all said and done, whoever stood with you on the wall, no matter what capacity, they put the uniform on. When it gets serious, they deserve as much gratitude for what they did as everybody else that stood in the front, because without them, there's no you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I've enjoyed it. I think that's and again, my podcast, I can get in trouble if I want to. I'm not saying there's not the camaraderie that women love too, but speaking only from a male perspective, because I don't have it. That's why when I played rugby, with your brother, or you play sports, there's that when people get out of pro sports. I had Gerald Riggs in here, a 3-time NFL All-Pro. He said the thing he missed the most was the locker room, was that feeling of brotherhood.
Right.
And so when you get out, or what pulls you back a lot of times may be the danger or doing something for your country, but it's also that feeling of that's the ultimate team. It gets no more teamwork than that, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the
there's no other organization like the military in general to me, where I know that if you and I are on that C-130 going somewhere together, that we'll die for each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing, is that the camaraderie is there, and it surpasses all religious, political, all the other BS that comes out. It surpasses all that stuff. I mean, we had people that were atheists, we had Jehovah's Witnesses, Seventh-day Adventists, Christian, everybody over there, and they kill for one another.
And
but you come back to civilian life, and all those people are, they all get segmented again.
You have to go back into
segregated.
you have to go back into your little group, and you have to stay there. Me and my dad have talked about that a little bit before. Whoever's in the foxhole with you, I would imagine, you don't care. I don't care what color you are.
No.
Just you watch that side. I'll take this side. And this, I want to wrap back around and talk a little more about your personal experience, if you guys, as much as you're comfortable. But it's a nice segue into the bigger topic. Is again, I'm gonna keep saying it. Reference Point. I want to talk about Reference Point. But the reason you started Reference Point was somewhat of when you guys came back, right? So now all of a sudden you come back, whether it's no matter why you're out, you come from this super uber team, right? I know it, and I know what I'm doing every day.
Yeah, the alpha male. Really what it boils down to. I mean, you're the alpha male. Nobody goes anywhere. Nobody does anything unless they tell you, or, you're on top of the game.
Yeah. And then, hey, by the way, welcome back.
Yeah.
You need a job.
Yeah.
Welcome back. You can't talk to someone like that.
Right.
Yeah. You can't be that aggressive. You need to lower your tone. You can't expect people to do their job. That was one thing that got said to me, and I was like, excuse me. They said, well, you just can't expect them to do their job the way you want them to. And I said, it's not the way I want them to. It's the way they should be doing it.
Right.
And that was a very hard concept for me.
Jerk.
Yeah, I know. Well, no, I'm sure it.
My big thing was,
I'm offended just sitting here, Mr.
I just want you to do
Yeah.
the job right.
Yeah.
Just do it right.
But it's an experience that still to this day, 14 years later, or I guess it's less than that. however many years later since I've been out of the Marine Corps, I still struggle with it today.
Right.
I've owned parts of businesses. I've had some employees, and you have to walk on eggshells around certain types of people, and you have to learn what works and what doesn't. And it's a learning process that I will probably learn for the rest of my life.
You'll never arrive with that destination. Go ahead.
It's difficult dealing with civilian, civilian versus military. I've got two guys that work for me. One is military, one is civilian. And I tell you, I talk to the military guy completely different than the civilian guy. I rag him daily.
Do you know why? Because he can take it.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm not going to compare it completely, but there are, and especially if you've just done only high school, but guys we talk differently to each other, especially and take the military side out of it. But if you've done any time in sports, hung around with any alpha males, if you can't give and take, I mean, because that's you're just done. But again, the expectations on the military guy are probably different than the civilian. You're like, man, I mean, you might expect it the same, but you could probably tell a difference in how they operate too.
There's a difference in the way they work as well.
Yeah. So you come back, and this is where we'll talk a little bit about the personal experience and why you started Reference Point. But you come back, and like we said, you're out of the team. You're off the team. You're always part of the team. I get it, but you're not the daily team. I'm not around my teammates all the time. I don't have an agenda set for me every single day. So now I've got to set the agenda, and I've got to get back not only to civilian life, but I got to have relationships. You know what I'm saying? Relationships. I mean, you've spent how long were you in the service?
8 years.
How long were you?
3.
There you go. You spent years in the military, and you come back, all of a sudden I've got to be soft and thoughtful and empathetic, and I've got to put myself in your shoes, and all of a sudden you're like, really? I got to do that too? On top of getting a job? Is that hard?
I think you missed the structure. What a lot of people miss. The structure's just, you know what your job is, you know how to do it, and you just go do it. And you've got other people that sit over top of you and say, well, now I want to change it. And the thing with the military is you are constantly changing. Nothing stops. They'll say, we're going to go do this night op. Well, you'll get right up to say, we'll do the night op this evening. In the afternoon, it could change. You may not be doing it anymore. You may be going over to guard a warehouse or something. Semper Gumby is what we always say in the Marine Corps. You're always flexible, always taking and giving.
Did you have struggles when you came back as far as that structure and having to get back to the...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And just not so much the struggle of the structure when it pertains to me, but the struggle as it pertains to those around me. How people would show up late, just didn't show up at all, or didn't do their job. And, in the Marine Corps, if you didn't do your job, it got fixed.
Right.
In the civilian world, I found that if someone didn't do their job, it just got brushed over, and it meant more work, but there was nothing else that really happened from it. And so while I continued to work hard, some of those around me weren't, and there really wasn't that much of a difference.
Right.
For, how we were treated. Was
there any issues so now you that's addressing the trying to get back into the workforce.
Yeah.
But were you married when you went in?
I wasn't. No.
I wasn't when I went in. I got married shortly after I went in.
Did you find it affecting your friendships with people who hadn't been in the military? You get out, and I got to have friendships, and there may have been people you knew from high school or in the area. But did you find that there was a barrier between you and people who didn't have that in common, or not really? Was it pretty easy for you?
I felt like I got along better with people after being in the military.
Oh, okay.
More empathetic, because you deal with so many people in the military. You've got to get used to it.
Yeah, guys in your unit may be from Massachusetts, California.
You had Northerners in your unit?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What? No,
yeah. Had a guy from,
how did you make it?
I think he was Massachusetts. He was probably like 6'5", and his last name was Rabbit.
Oh, really?
So we all, you call everybody by their last name. It's just funny. You're sitting there calling this huge mountain of a guy Rabbit.
That's funny.
But
so you didn't find there was any problem establishing relationships or getting close to people? There was none of that as far as
getting close to people is different than being able to interact with them. Getting close to people is a little different.
It's a different type of getting close to people.
Yes.
You don't let people really in.
Right.
I connected with people on different levels. I found other things to occupy my time. I got heavy into riding motorcycles, which I was in when I was in the Marine Corps as well. But you hang out with people and you find different types of common ground to get on with them, but never really going to find that same closeness that you had
Were you
were
looking
in.
for it? Were both of y'all trying to find it when you came back, or did you both realize real quick that's just that part of it's just not going to be the same? Or were you looking?
I
for
think
it?
we kind of had it. Will and I are part of a men's Bible study group, and there was 5 of us at the time, and we would get together once a month and hang out. And so we kind of had that structure. If you needed something, you could call anybody and say, "Hey, this is what I'm dealing with." And
How lucky? I mean, I'll say lucky. I mean, it was
Yeah.
intentional, but it's fortunate because a lot of people that come back probably don't have that, and that's kind of why this whole organization you started with Reference Point is that big vacuum of structure and friends and purpose.
Yeah.
And I think purpose is a word we haven't used so far. I would think that would be one of the biggest vacuums. You felt like when you got up in the military, you felt like you had to do something to do every day.
yeah, you do have a purpose in the military.
Right.
They make sure you understand your purpose.
Repeat
and
it.
you do
have
miss
to repeat it often, I bet. Don't
you do miss it when you come back. We have guys that come back from deployments and they go, "God, I used to be somebody. I used to, people didn't leave the wire without me, and now I'm sitting here having to make sure this person comes in on time." And
If they're lucky enough to get into a position like that, a lot of times they come back home and they're like, "Well, you don't have enough management experience for this job."
that's true.
Listen,
You've got people that have been in the military for 4 years, and Walmart's telling them they don't have enough of management experience.
I would say the one common thing that transverses all the different military branches, in my opinion, is management training.
Okay.
From day one, you are taught management training. And as you continue to go up in the ranks, unless you're getting busted down and you're, some 4-year private, that's the first rank available, unless, you're just not doing a very good job adhering to the military lifestyle, you've had management beat into your head. At some point, a guy that's been in 8 years, he was probably managing at least 20 people, sometimes more. It just depends
and
on where
expensive
you are.
equipment, probably.
Millions of dollars.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
the supply chief for my unit, and I had like a $5 million budget for my unit supplies. I was
How do you
23
transfer that
years
over?
old.
How do you transfer that over to a resume? I mean, I'm sure you can. Do they have help like that when you leave? Do they have people saying, "Okay, you did this in the military. Let's create a resume for you that kind of can correlate to the civilian life," or is that something they don't offer? Or is that me just asking a stupid question?
No, it's not a stupid
Which
question.
is,
I think
I'm famous for, by the way.
I think
Stupid
there
questions.
are resources out there, but just speaking from my personal experience, when I got out, you go through all of these classes and you go into these learning environments where they try to give you all the different resources that you might need and tell you who you can call and who can help you do what. And it's such a whirlwind. I had so much information thrown at me. And the next day, I didn't remember 25% of it. And so I didn't have anyone to help me write a resume or to understand how to tweak my resume. I didn't understand how my skills from the Marine Corps would transfer over.
And they don't have someone to follow up with you either, do they? They don't have
No one ever
you're not
followed up with me.
assigned Bob or Susan
No.
who's going to check back in with you and go, "Hey, how are you doing?"
When I got medically separated, they
Seems like a
actually
pretty-
did have somebody that followed up with me and made sure that because mine was a little different than Will's, I think, to some degree. But mine was a medical retirement.
Right.
I know his was a medical discharge. So they actually I was part of the Wounded Warrior Battalion, even though I never went to the Wounded Warrior Battalion. And they would call me and say, "How are things going? What do you need from us? What can we do to help you?" Or I don't know that Will got that.
No.
Yeah.
No
See.
one ever called to check up on me. I guess mine was not in a combat area of operations, my injury. So it was pretty much just like, well,
Here's some
thanks
pamphlets.
for coming out.
Yeah.
We'll mail you your DD-214. I got my DD-214 in the mail, and that was it for me.
Was it emotional for you?
I don't know about emotional. It was
Sad? Were you sad?
I was depressed. I'll
Yeah.
be honest with you. I was depressed.
I'm glad you're not going to lie to me, man, because I can tell.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, but depressed in a different way. I didn't know really what to do with myself. My situation, of course, was different. And that Daniel's point, every situation's different. You
Well,
could have
but there's some things, though, you've said that I think go through the theme of all of them. If I had the other two, if I had Andy and Corey sitting in here, I bet the words of depressed, the structure, not knowing what to do. I mean, there's some themes, no matter why you're out of it, there's some themes that kind of run through every situation, and they are the same. And I can't imagine if that's your life for 3 years, 2 years, or 20 years, there's not part of you that goes, "Ugh, I got to get up and do other things now," and that's not really what I had in mind.
And now you got to go make your own way in the world, and you've got to structure yourself to fit the world now.
What did you do when you first came back as far as finding a job or finding something to do with your time? I know you said you rode motorcycles, but what else did you do? Did you just go apply to a bunch of places? Did you start reaching out to people you knew? How do you do that?
Well, personally, I started bartending again because that's what I'd done before the Marine Corps. I knew it. I knew that I could get a job doing it. I didn't know how my job skills would transfer over, and also I wanted to go to school. So I got enrolled in school. I started bartending, and honestly, you talk about the depression. I just started drinking a lot. I started partying a lot.
That works super well, man.
It really helps you forget that night.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I went through some life changes 2 years ago. Drinking works great for 24 hours. And you wake back up and you've not made any progress and you're still got the same problems. Yeah.
I went to Iraq in 2008, 2009. And when I came back, that's when the recession hit. And I couldn't find a job when I came back. And I was reserved, so it was a little different for me in my military experience. And when I came back, there was just nothing. Nobody was hiring. I couldn't get hired on with friends, anybody. So I started a tree service, which I'd been doing for a little while, and still
Cutting
have.
trees down, cutting them up. That's still what you do now, right?
Yeah.
Just a selfless plug. What's the name of it?
Wysong Tree Service.
There you go. How many people you got working with you?
I've got 2 right now. We're buying another truck, and we're moving up in the world.
Are you really?
Yeah.
And what do you do?
A lot of different things.
He just looked at me with a pretty daggum intense stare. I was like,
I don't know where to really start. No, I'm a pharmaceutical rep for a major pharmaceutical company. I own a website design, graphic design company.
Okay.
And I own a drone photography service.
well, I should have known you. I just closed my marketing company now. I had an ad agency for years. That's all I've ever done. I closed it down in January, but I used to use drone services and website design all the time. So I probably should have known you back then. And we'll see what happens down the road. But so you do pharmaceutical reps too? How long you been in that?
So I used to own part of a company with my brother, and we did medical supplies for addiction treatment. And I sold that part of that company last year, and I got brought back into the addiction world through a pharmaceutical company just this year. So I've been doing it since January. But
I think people would be surprised at the amount, and I don't know what if you deal with, do you deal with a specific addiction or like opioids or any?
Primarily opioid addiction. Our company,
it's crazy.
A lot.
It is crazy though, the amount of people that are addicted to those.
Yeah.
It's nuts. I've had a couple good buddies with great jobs, get back surgery, or they have some, and they get addicted to pills. It's huge.
When I had my shoulder surgery, the doctor, I called him, and I was very religious about not taking those.
Yeah.
And I would take them before I went to sleep, and I would take them right before physical therapy, and that was the only time I took them.
Yep.
And I called to get a refill, and they said no. They said not happening. And I said, but I'm in a lot of pain. And I said, it's not an addiction thing. I just need them.
Yeah.
And they said no. I said,
I
we'll
had
give
a
you
little-
something else, but you're not getting those.
I had almost reverse. I had my hip replaced about 7 years ago. I had done what you did, took him at night so I could sleep, and I take him before physical therapy. And went through my first dose, called my doctor up on the second dose, and I'm like, hey, I'm still in physical rehab. He goes, no problem. Gave me another prescription. I said subscription, like you can subscribe to it. Where do I get
Send
that
it to my
subscription?
house.
Absolutely. But I called and got another prescription of them, and about halfway through that one, I flushed them. I got rid of them. And not because I was taking more than I needed. I got up one morning and I said, oh man, I'm not really hurting that bad. And I got sad that I didn't need to take the medicine. That's a weird thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no. So I called my doctor. I said, I need to get something that doesn't have that. And he goes, are you okay? I said, I'm fine. Those other ones are gone. He goes, did you dispose of them properly?
And you said no.
You mind your own affairs, sir. That's what I said. But you know what I'm saying? So I didn't take more than I was supposed to. I just started to feel the presence because the sun comes out.
Yeah.
When you take those, man, the sun comes out and the bluebirds. Its life is good.
I don't know. I must have got something different.
Yeah, you must have
I didn't
something
feel like mine had much of an effect on me.
It affects people differently. It really does.
Even the morphine they gave me didn't have much effect on me. I was like, is there any more of this in this?
Dude,
I've clicked this thing like 3 times. You're sure there's not more?
It's all. They're not. It's just water at that point. It's all subliminal. I mean, it's psychosomatic. All right, so come back. You've gone through. You're trying to find your way. But over the last, since you've been out, you notice you know this is a problem for veterans. Again, no matter what their story. How did you guys start Reference Point? Where did the genesis of that come from?
So it's funny enough, you talk about how did we do as far as relationships go and making new relationships and meeting people and forming new friendships. And it's funny because just generally in life, you tend to gravitate towards those that are like you and that understand you.
Right.
And like Daniel mentioned earlier, we met through a men's Bible study group for veterans and just got to know one another through there and just talking and opening up to one another. And we were sitting around with Corey, and I don't remember who said it first or how it happened or what, but I just remember we were sitting around talking, and we were talking about, what we'd done and where we'd been and whatever. And we start talking about how we had a difficult time transitioning. And whoever said it first, then another person was like, well, wait, you had a hard time when you got out? Or yeah. Well, so did I. Then the third guy says, well, yeah, so did I. And we're like, wait a minute. Okay. Can't be that uncommon that all three of us struggled in some capacity when we first got out of the military in transferring back into the civilian life. So Daniel had already started putting together range day just for veterans.
Gun range, right? Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And one of the issues one of the positive things that we see out of that was that it brought the veterans together, and we start talking to more guys, and we start finding out that more guys struggled when they first got out, or are still struggling, or will continue to struggle on some level. And so, to be perfectly honest with you, the events that we have put on in the past, the first one came all out of Daniel's pocket. Every dime that got spent, well, I think Corey paid for the food, and we had
Corey
some
pay for the food
expenses
and
here, but the point was, it came really expensive really fast to put these events on because we have increased in about 100% attendance with each event. So
how many have you had so far?
In our first event, we probably only had about 23, 24. Second event was over 50, and then this last event was approaching 100.
Wow, okay.
And so we've got another event coming up in the fall. We want it to grow, but if we get up, much bigger, our expenses just keep going up and up. And we reached a point where we can't finance it out of our own pockets solely anymore. And we want to be able to reach more veterans all the time, not just at our events. So that's when we created Reference Point.
So Reference Point, and the website is referencepoint.org.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it right now, and I'm looking at your about, your mission statement, your vision. So I know you have other things that are your goals, and let's talk about that just a second. I mean, you want this to be a resource for veterans for it's not just gun range day, right? It's not just range day. Where do you see this thing going? Where do you want it to go?
So there's a lot of different things that we want to do, but the biggest thing that we want to do is to make it to where veterans don't have to struggle in understanding their place in this world when they come back because they don't have a brotherhood. We're going to pick up where the military leaves off and continue to give them a connecting place to be and to give them the resources that they need to succeed in life.
I was looking on something when I had you on the radio show through Facebook that eventually not only do you want to do the range day, and you want, like you were saying, you want them to feel comfortable that they fit in and all that, but also, and again, if I'm putting words in your mouth, feel free to reach over here and take them back, but there's organizations that do stuff nationally that do good work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they do.
But they don't drill down to the guy that lives 3 houses down, right? They don't dive down to the guy at the bar or the guy struggling with his family. So you wanted to do something that could really spread locally as organically as possible. Bob knows Tim or knows Susan. Susan was in the military because this isn't the guys club. This is anybody served as a veteran.
Yeah,
right?
anybody. Any female that has served knows that there's more males than females in the military. That's a given. We welcome anybody that has served.
Right.
If you've served honorably, you've put your life out there for other people, by all means, come on.
Yeah,
if you are
that's the only
actively
real
serving,
stipulation that we have at this point in life, and we don't know that it won't change. But right now, we just need you to have served with honor. We're not trying to bring guys in that were deserters or anything other than that.
I can tell you right now, if you're stolen valor, I would stay away from range day.
Bird Goal, you are not welcome at range day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whatever her name is now.
Chelsea,
a different one?
whatever Manning you are now, you are not welcome at range day.
We're going straight to that video clip, are we?
That's horrible.
That was a.
Yeah,
did y'all see the video clip of that one with the Ben Shapiro interview?
No.
No.
I do like him.
We'll talk about that later. That's a good one off the air. But so yeah, you do want to be a resource, and anybody that served, you were saying, that served honorably, that can be part of it. But it is a local solution for these type things, and I know you have other things you eventually want to get to.
Well, absolutely. I mean, right now, our primary objectives is to create a network of veterans that help one another. There's just a few of us that are involved in this at this point in life. We can't do everything for everyone. We want to create that network so that, one guy can call this girl or this, we want them to be able to rely and lean on each other. We have had people come to us. There was a guy that came to us late last year. He'd just gotten out of the Marine Corps, as a matter of fact. And he said, man, I've been out for a few months. I've put my resume out, but I haven't had one single job interview. We made a few phone calls to a few people that have identified themselves as veteran-friendly businesses, and he's now employed. He got interviews almost immediately. He got a job. He's happy. He's doing well.
We had a similar situation. This one was personal experience. One of the guys I deployed with, his brother was in the military, and he called me and he said, I can't find a job for my brother. He said he's just kind of wandering through life right now, and he needs something to keep him afloat for a while. And I said, well, send him down here. He came down here, he got employed, and he's working right now.
I'm going to go ahead and call some people out live on the broadcast. Eric Buchanan, y'all know Eric Buchanan, the attorney, is an ERISA attorney, well-known nationally, real good friend of mine, played rugby with your brother.
I think John worked for him.
Yeah, but he did. Yeah, but but the reason I'm saying that, he was a pilot, military history. He's a veteran. He'd be somebody great to get on your team because of his national connections, but also because Eric has a passion for history and has a passion for military. Tranca Logistics, huge supporters of the military and veterans. They're in everything. Graduated high school with those guys. Byron and Bruce Trantham, huge logistics company. And there's a couple other, Lipsy Logistics, there's a couple other companies. I'm calling them out by name because I'm going to eventually want to make those introductions. And if I do it now, I'll send them a copy of this, and they'll know they have to meet you guys, but they're jerks. And I'll do that. But also on the networking side of it. And if y'all haven't, and this is the great thing about a podcast, we can brainstorm right here.
Yeah.
I mean, somehow we need to get this involved with the chamber. There's got to be a component of the Chattanooga Chamber, unless y'all have already done that. Because I know people there, the new president and everything, there's got to be a way to have something that's built inside the chamber for this. Have y'all talked to them at all about what you're trying to do?
Not yet. So,
no.
Reference Point, while we've been doing events and we've been doing this now for several years, Reference Point was only founded this year.
Right.
And the thing that we have to continually remind each other is we all have families, we all have jobs, and we're trying to do this to the best of our abilities. So we want to be involved with the chamber. We want to go to networking events and to do things like that, but it's finding the time because we're 100% volunteer, just like our military at this point. I'd love for this to get to a point in life where we're able to walk away from our other responsibilities, and this is our full-time
just help
jobs.
veterans all day. Yeah.
I've told my wife, this is my passion. I'm loving it, and it's given me a purpose yet again.
That's cool.
And I'm all about it. But at this point, I'm not independently wealthy to a point where I can not have income, so I have to have a different job. So I say all that to say, yeah, we want to be involved, but it's finding the ability, the time frame, and the connections to
I may
do
be
that.
able to help with that one a little bit. The some of these things I'm not good at. I never had the courage to do what you guys did, but now that you're trying this, that's kind of in my wheelhouse. So I can help with some of those relationships.
That'd be awesome.
Because that's all I've really ever done is build relationships. And it's funny, as you get older, you start realizing that maybe the relationships that you've developed, even though they benefited you at certain times, really were for things down the road. I've gotten more people jobs the last 5 years. I've gotten more people called me the last 5 years saying, hey, thank you for what. And it's because of people I met 25 years ago, and you don't really know that's going to really mean anything. So you never know how your roads and my roads, or Eric Buchanan's road or Tranca, how those roads all merge at some point to really help that one veteran who really needs the help.
Well, and that's what we've said all along, is we want to help as many veterans as possible. But if we help one veteran turn his life around or change his life or make his life not as difficult as it needs to be, then it's worth all the hours and all the time and all the money that we can pour into it ourselves.
One of the things that I'm listening to you that it's run through my brain since we talked about it 15, 20 minutes ago is I cannot picture there's got to be a program out there. If not, we need to work on it, that takes what someone did in the military and transcribes that over to a real life application on a resume. Because that has got to be, and you probably have had to do some of that, but if there's not a service that's provided to veterans, it should be. Because that is, to me, one of the things to be able to articulate to an employer, this is what I did and this is how it relates to you. Even the military, life's about storytelling. And so I hope that if that's something we can work on, because I think that would be huge to be able
That's
to say, here's a
powerful to
resume.
have, because a lot of guys that come out, they say, how does that transition? How does that work? How does me managing a supply depot, how does that transition over to whatever I want to do?
There are business owners right now listening to this that cannot wait to get a hold of you guys.
Because
They want to sit down and say, let me show you how.
Yeah.
There's veterans, I guarantee you veterans right now that are older than you guys who have had to navigate this before. It goes, I know exactly how that crap transfers over. Bring it to me.
And so that's one of the 5 major pillars of the things that we're doing.
What are the 5?
So it's resource sharing. It's just the ability to say, hey, I know about this, or I know about a job, or I know about an apartment if you're needing a lead on a place to live. Just resource sharing in general. But our large scale events obviously facilitate all of this. Business networking, again, just, you need a website done? Well, I know a veteran that does websites. Or you need a tree cut down? Well, I know a veteran that does that. Creating that network of business leads, and then meaningful relationships, just creating that bond between people.
And on that note, I can't tell you how many people that I've met doing this and have more meaningful relationships with them. And this is not to say, I didn't have meaningful relationships before. I did. But, Will and Corey and these other guys, as time progresses, there's been more and more. And just the relationships is just Daniel Hobson. I didn't know Daniel from Adam, and he showed up to our first event, and he and I are great buddies now. And it's just continued. And so the meaningful relationships is very important.
I think the meaningful relationships feed everything else. But the last one is leadership development. We've all personally done this already. You say you don't know if there's a program out there. If there's not, you should. Well, we kind of already do that. It's just, again, the ability to scale this up. And that's pairing someone who's getting out with a mentor. Just like that guy that I was talking about. He got out. He was an IT type in the Marine Corps. So obviously very smart. Got a lot of background and training from the United States government and how to be an IT support person. But he didn't know who to talk to. Couldn't even get an interview. Made a few phone calls. Found a guy who was not a veteran. I'll call him out as a big thank you on here. His name's Casey Thomas. He's the Chief Information Officer for the Chattanooga Times Free Press. Kind of helped take this young man under his wing and sat down with him, went to lunch with him, sat down, had a conversation with him, just a conversation with him, looked at his experiences and says, here's what you need to do, here's how you can succeed, and put him on the right path. He didn't have a job for him. He didn't give him money. He didn't give him a handout. He just helped mentor him.
What's cool about that is you start gathering more stories like that from Casey, like the Casey, the mentors. So you guys know the veteran side of it. And the business side of it, you had to come back and kind of find out on your own, and you've both been successful. But I would start, and I know you probably already have done that, but I would find out what Casey did exactly, and I would start documenting that. And the reason is because if you get 7 mentors, now you got 10, now you get 15, I bet you there's certain questions they're asking or things they're doing that are all going to be kind of the same theme or the running through their conversations. Then you can start putting your own plan in place of, these are the 7 things that we need to have. Then it becomes a real mentoring program to where when you bring Clint Powell in as a mentor or Daniel in as a mentor, whoever their name is, you can say, now here's the 7 things we have to achieve when you take this mentoree over.
Right.
That's awesome, man, because that's giving you your first success story, and now you can duplicate that. Once you know how to do something, you can duplicate it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, at least that's what I'm hoping.
Just like McDonald's, just duplication process.
Absolutely. With what did you say? You said to people, "My pleasure." Yeah.
My pleasure.
It's my
Chick-fil-A.
pleasure. Yeah, Chick-fil-A is my pleasure.
Have you seen the rap video, My Pleasure?
Yes, I
hilarious.
have. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I showed it to my mom.
Good marketing.
My mom is a prayer warrior, so I sent that to her, and she just kind of loved Chick-fil-A anyway, so it went off real well. Okay, so reference point started. We're rolling now. You've got your 5 pillars. There's things you're wanting to become. Let's kind of take this back full circle. And what is the end game? Is this is a self-sustaining nonprofit, right?
Yeah.
That's what you want it to be.
Yes.
Just in this area? Do you want to grow it to other areas? Do you have contacts in other cities? Or right now, is it really just here?
We've had interest from other cities, but for me, this has to be 100% self-sustainable, and we have to be able to replicate it and to be able to control it to a standard that we all agree upon. So at this stage in life, we're not even entertaining the idea of expanding into other cities just because we can't.
How much money does it take to run this program? Do you think? What's the budget you think it would take to run this program?
Well, right now, we're without getting salaries or anything like that, just based off of our events, we're coming out of pocket at about $10,000 a year.
Okay,
which is not a lot of money.
Well, unless
it's
money.
Coming out right.
Yeah, unless it's your money.
Just so I can tell you,
unless
10
it's
grand,
my wife's shopping money.
Yeah, $10,000 doesn't sound like much to Clint. Right. Clint, can you contribute? That's way too much money. You know, that's how that works.
But as far as a nonprofit goes, that's not that much.
Yeah.
But long term, so short term, we would be ecstatic if the events were paid for.
Well,
just if we could get the events paid for, and we're not having to continually pay for that stuff out of pocket.
Well, I know Bruce Dodd at People's Home Equity is committed to either $1,500 or $3,000. I can't remember. And I know we've got a meeting set up coming up hopefully in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and I'll call him out because I know he's a good dude and he'll still meet with you. But it's Gerald McCormick who's going to help you find some other people to get behind you and sponsor. But with that being said, you are looking for corporate sponsors. You're needing people to step up to the plate.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where does that money go? Where will that go? Will that go just for the range day right up front, or will it go to other things?
So our short-term goals at this point are just our events. So, all the pillars that we just talked about, those are made possible by the events that we do. A lot of veterans aren't comfortable coming out and singing Kumbaya and sitting around talking about what they've done. But if you get them on a common ground, if you bring them out to an event where there's guns and food and people that are like-minded to get together, they will come out and they're more open to getting to know one another. And that's what builds the foundation of everything that we do. We've met guys at these events that we've seen at multiple events, and we've not really had deep, meaningful conversations, but something happens on the third or fourth time that we see them. They open up, man, I'm struggling with this, or I'm struggling with that.
That's called trust.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk to you just because I got a gun in my hand today.
Yeah.
But if you prove to me that you're going to be here more than once or twice and really listen when I talk and sit in silence with me, then I'll talk to you about stuff.
Yeah. And we give every one of them our cell phone numbers, and I tell them I don't care if it's 1 o'clock in the morning, you text or call me. I'm going to answer. I've got a week-old baby at home, so I'm probably up anyway.
I'm coffee'd up. Man.
Yeah,
I'm Java.
I drink Monsters like they're going out of style.
You mean like that one right over there?
Exactly like that one.
No sugar.
I got a case of them at Costco.
My girlfriend drinks those, and she hooked me up with that. I said, I love coffee. And this was a year ago. She goes, you've ever tried these? I'm like, no. And I'm like,
shout out to Monster if you'd like to sponsor Reference Point. We are drinking your beverage here.
Well, I know the contact with Monster, so I'll shoot you, unless you know him already.
If I can just get free Monsters, that would be great. So the two things I want to bring up. But go ahead, you finish. I was just going to say that's our immediate short-term goals. We just need these events to be self-sustaining so that we can continue to reach more and more people.
But do you have a gun range, or are you wanting to build a gun range? That's
our ultimate.
How much does a gun range cost and land and everything? Have you ever even started putting that together?
We have.
What's the cost on that?
Well, it really depends. We could put a gun range together, and the cost is
No, give me the dream one. Don't give me
the dream one.
Yeah,
I need $1.5 million.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now give me the one that's not the dream one. What could you live with starting off?
You'd probably need a minimum of $100,000 to $150,000 to be able to buy enough land in a remote enough area to be able to have regular activities out there.
Because you're not shooting we're not talking about my 45.
No.
Look at him smiling. So let's talk about this part of it. This is where you smile. The first thing I want to say, I'm not saying it because I know, I'm saying it because I've heard you guys say, the stress on safety is unbelievable.
We run the range at our events exactly like you would expect from a military organization. We have a firing line, we have safety boxes, we have a range safety officer at all times. Personally, I don't get to shoot at our range day events. I shoot when it's over.
Yeah.
You're busy. The three of us really don't get to shoot that often. We're generally in some capacity doing something, but at any given point, one of the three of us, Corey, myself, or Daniel, we're standing there being a range officer, just making sure that everyone's following the rules, making sure that everyone's safe, and that there's no hazards out there.
Okay, now that's being said. Good job. What kind of guns are we talking about?
We're talking about everything. We're talking about MP5s, AR-15s, M4s. You've got Thompson submachine guns. You've got 50 caliber Maul Deuce, the Browning M2. That's out there. We've got a Dishka, which is a Russian version. It's actually an anti-aircraft gun. That's what it's classified as.
You need a little room then, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we need a little room
like
for
the
that.
10 acres off East Brainerd Road. No,
exactly. Well, and right now we've got a really great guy. His name's Dave Helton down in the North Tunnel Hill, South Ringgold exit area. And he's got some land, and he lets us use it. He's got a permanent range built on his land, and it's great. But this last time we were out there shooting, some people on horseback kind of were riding near the
my
range
gosh.
of
I think
operations.
they were
and
curious about what was going on.
we had to shut everything down until it was safe and clear. And, those pose some risks that we can't really
You need
control because it's
something more
not our land.
confined and more regimented. Just
So I'm going to be
structured.
honest with you. I have found the perfect place.
Oh,
It's
have
perfect.
you?
Yes,
I
he
have.
has.
Where at?
I'll tell you the address, and then you'll know that it's perfect. It's in North Trenton, Wildwood area.
Okay.
The address is 0 Veterans Road.
There you go. Do you know who owns it?
I don't. I saw it. It's over 600 acres. It's wooded, hilled, ponds, everything you could possibly want.
Well, that's cool that you brought that up because I know one of the things, and again, I was talking to Andy Craig about this one. So, he was telling me that eventually, not now, but eventually, and at least an event that actually people can bring their families to.
Absolutely.
And it may not be the big giant guns. It may be more of a
Yeah.
picnic. But that would be a great way to incorporate not only me, but my support people. And then the wives can talk.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
also
that's-
they got something in common.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely something that we want to add to it and bring more people in. Right now, our events are veteran only just to create that safe environment.
yeah.
But we were trying to have a family event this fall.
How do y'all work as far as finding them counseling they may need? Do y'all have any partners
lot
with
of
that,
times-
or do you refer them to the VA?
No, we don't refer
We don't
anybody,
refer
to
anybody to the
the
VA.
VA.
I said
No,
that on
Sorry.
purpose.
Sorry, but no, I don't go to the VA.
we don't refer
they
anybody to
both
the
vomited
VA.
a little bit on the
Um,
table. That's not right. No, I get it.
a lot of times veterans don't need psychological help. It's just they need that one-on-one time with somebody that knows what they've been through or knows what they're going through. And that was actually a big thing for me. Around this time 8 years ago, I was a buddy of mine, Curtis Roth, he's a police officer.
Yeah.
I called him up and I said, hey, I'm having a really hard time with Greer's death, and I'm having a really hard time with what's going on.
Yeah.
And we went to Chili's on Gun Barrel Road. We sat there for hour and a half, and just talked. Didn't do anything else. That's all we did was just talk. And I got up and I left, and I felt so much better having talked to him and expressed what I was feeling. And, having that trust with him, though, is where the biggest problem that you're going to have with people that have issues. And knowing that they can talk to Will or myself, somebody that's been there and done that, is a big plus.
They don't have to pre-qualify or
No.
explain. You can start almost mid-sentence.
I mean,
they know what the other sentence was you already saying.
They can go on a cursing tirade. We understand. We know what we've been there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You forgot one.
Yeah,
Here's another word you
Let
forgot.
me tell you what else you're going to feel.
Yeah.
just wait.
Yeah, it's coming, right? All right, so the family event, we've talked about you guys needing sponsors. How do people find out about where to sponsor it? I mean, as far as giving, if they want to give money, other than the website, is there?
Well, there's a lot of opportunities for people. They can contact us directly. Our contact information is on the website.
Oh, is it? Okay, I
It's
didn't know other-
Yeah, there's an about form that tells you a little bit more about what we're doing, just our mission, vision. We don't really go into a lot about ourselves. This is not about us. This is about the veterans that we're trying to help. But you can sign up for a newsletter on our website. We have a Facebook page where we run a lot of our ads and things like that, and just trying to get awareness for events. And
Well, this is coming out Friday. I mean, because we record
Yeah.
this on Wednesdays. Everybody kind of knows that. But you have another week left, or less than a week for raffle. Aren't you selling?
yeah, next Wednesday's our last day for a raffle.
Tell everybody what that is.
Well, right now we do have a raffle going on for a weapon. It is actually manufactured locally here in Fort Oglethorpe by a great company called Dawn of Defense, and it is called an F-15. A lot of people out there will know it as an AR-15, but there's a lot of miscommunications and misnomenclatures with what
Assault
exactly.
rifle?
Yeah,
Is
no,
that the
no.
AR-15?
It is
I
not.
said that.
It is not.
They both karate chopped my face right there. In their eyes.
AR-15 stands for Armalite Rifle Model
Thank you.
Number 15.
Thank you.
It is nothing more than a model number. It's like Lexus ES350 versus an IS350.
I remember I saw somebody
Is the
post.
ES350, is that the assault rifle?
That's
That
the
is,
assault.
it's a
the assault vehicle.
fully semi-automatic ghost gun.
Did you hear the straw ban in California?
I did, yeah.
Did you see
Yeah.
the one about the old straw dispenser? You
Yeah,
know,
it's
about-
a-
an
The
assault.
assault.
It's an assault
I
straw
laughed
dispenser.
my head
It's
off.
high capacity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Feeds it right after. It's automatic feed, man. You hit one and
Yeah.
another one pops in.
But this
So,
raffle is
yeah.
really awesome. All the proceeds go directly towards funding our next event. It's a $1,500 rifle. Raffle tickets are $10 for one. You can get 3 for $25. You can buy as many as you want. We're only selling a limited amount of them to try to make it a little bit better odds.
Yeah.
We're only doing either 500 total tickets or till August 15th, which is next Wednesday, whichever comes first. And then we'll do a Facebook Live. We'll randomly draw the number, and the winner actually gets to pick this up direct from Dawn of Defense, and they have the opportunity to purchase upgrades if they want, fully customize it. Dawn of Defense is also thrown in a 100% free Cerakoting on the gun, so you actually get to pick whatever color you want. You can have it Cerakoted hot pink if that's your thing.
A buddy of mine's got an AR-15. I have to borrow his guns. I've got a 38, and because my grandfather gave it to me, a little 22, and I've wanted to have a shotgun forever, but I borrow my buddy's guns, AR-15 and shotgun, and I'll go out and shoot it all the time. And I went with Andy Craig because he had his sighted in, and we went and he's got some new sights on his, and I was watching how he.
Do you know where he sighted his in?
No, I don't. Where did
Range
At a
day.
range day.
Did he really? Well, somebody
That's
must have
the
done it for him
benefits
because it
of
was
going
pretty
to a
accurate.
range day.
God.
No, but so this is the reason I say all that is if this is something you've been wanting, I encourage you 100% to go get. Now, when they buy these, how can they?
They can buy them right here on our
online,
website.
right?
100%.
Good, that's what I was asking.
They can pay with either PayPal or their credit card. It's
Awesome.
100% secure. They can buy with confidence. It is verified through GoDaddy Secure, but they can buy right there if they're not comfortable. I've
Yeah.
had some people reach out, hey, I just don't buy anything on the internet. No worries. We'll meet you in
So
person.
you let 75-year-olds
I
buy
met with
stuff
it.
too, then?
Yeah.
right?
I met with a guy for lunch yesterday because he didn't buy stuff on the internet, and he handed me a check.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
yeah. I came down to one of your things and I bought it because I wanted to support down at Moe's. You'll say big shout out to
Absolutely.
Moe's too because they
Yeah.
helped you guys out. I do want to ask one more thing and then we'll wrap this show up. But I do want to say one more thing. We talk a lot about the age group that you've been in, right? I mean, have you found that some of the older veterans are starting to support your efforts? Or do you think that will come down
Oh,
the road?
absolutely. And I think they're involved in our efforts too.
They're
We have-
involved, and the biggest thing that we've got going on is because we're younger.
Yeah.
You know, we find and we connect with those younger ones a lot easier than we do the older ones. But the older ones are starting to come in now, and it's getting to be a lot better because they're coming in.
Different perspective,
Yes,
man. That is
different
awesome.
perspective, just
Because-
different experiences.
Yeah.
But similar experiences.
Well,
if
absolutely,
you will.
because I don't care how many times someone went to Afghanistan, they don't understand what the guy who went to Vietnam went through 100%. They're just, it's different. It was just like you mentioned earlier, coming
Yeah.
home was different.
Oh, yeah.
You know, my dad was in the Vietnam War, and to hear him talk about his experience coming home, it is infuriating.
Nobody was saying thank you for your
No, they
service to
spit
those.
on him.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
cursed at him. They
I've
threw
got an
things
uncle,
at
and he
him.
doesn't talk about
Yeah.
Vietnam.
My dad
I mean,
won't.
he told me childhood stories about the rock throwing apes and things like that happened over there in Vietnam. But
My
Doesn't
dad
tell
will
me
talk
anything
about it. He'll
about
tell
it.
me more now over the last 4 or 5 years. Every now and then he would drop a story on me, but he was never one of those. And I'm not slamming anybody. Everybody deals with that the way they deal with it. But he was never one of those guys that talk about it a lot or to wear and I think the reason is when he first came back, you were just immediately immersed in this. Hey, this is something we don't talk about
Yeah.
because I don't
Yeah.
know how I'm going to be reacted. The response is going to be. And they just got back to living lives and raising kids and going on and building a nation is what they did. And so I'm glad that they're starting to get involved.
Absolutely. We've got a very diverse group of individuals that are coming out to our events, and we want to see it grow and expand. And like Daniel said, anyone that's
I bet they would be
honorably
great
discharged.
mentors too.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, my gosh, because they
They've got
really
so
had to
much more
navigate it with no
experience
help.
as far as
So, and that's, you know, that's primarily why when people say, well, what can we do to help? How do we help? You know, I tell them there's different ways. Most people just hear nonprofit and they assume the next words out of my mouth are going to be, would you like to donate some money? And that's not accurate at all. We're looking for people to come out to our events to help us. We had
Volunteer, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Colleen and Bill Reimer out of Knoxville drove down at our last event just to cook. They literally cooked food, showed up, fed everyone, packed up their stuff, and left. Didn't even stick around for us to say thank you. They were just out.
That's the way it's supposed to be right
Well,
there.
that's incredible.
awesome.
So they
Yeah.
volunteered their time. Obviously, we're always looking for mentors. Those older veterans are perfect, but you don't have to be a veteran to mentor somebody. You could be a business owner who supports veterans and wants to hire veterans, and you just want to show veterans how they can use what you would look for on a resume
Yep.
to hire them. And then obviously you can just network. Even if you don't want or have the desire to quote unquote give back right now, just get involved and network. And you don't know, I benefit from this myself day in and day out. Doesn't matter what we do, I'm benefiting just as much as everyone else by the networking.
Well, and I'll say this, my just outside perspective looking in, we've used the word resume a lot, and we've talked about management and job. But there are places out there, too, if you're listening as a business owner, there are a lot of people that come back that need that transition job. Not everybody's going to come back and go straight into management. They need a job. Yeah. So, and they're okay. They've earned they know how to earn stripes. So they know how to earn their keep. Yeah. So if you have a job out there, just because it's not a management job, there are veterans coming back that go, I just need to make some money for my family now, or have something to go do every day. I understand I may only do this for 6 months or 2 years, and it will lead to somewhere else, maybe within that company or out. But don't think if you're a company, well, I don't have something that's management. No, you guys will find somebody to probably match a job. Well,
let me say this too. If there's a business out there that is veteran friendly, go to our website, referencepoint.org, click on the tab up at the top that says contact. Fill out that little form and email us. We'd love to know about that. We're going to be putting a page on our website that is veteran-friendly businesses.
Awesome.
Has nothing to do with how much money you give or how much you support, or even if you have hired someone or supported. It doesn't matter. We just want to know what businesses out there are veteran-friendly and would love to at least give a veteran a chance. If so, shoot us some contact information. We'll put up all your information on our website, your logo, contact, the whole nine.
That's cool. Anything you guys want to say before we wrap the show up, either to a veteran listening or to a business listening, anything that we haven't addressed? Is there anything that either one of you want to say before we wrap the show up to people that may be hearing this? It doesn't matter what it's about. The show is yours for the next minute or two.
The thing that I want to say is just thank you to Clint and to People's Home Equity for giving us a voice and giving us this opportunity to be out here and to reach who knows how many people. And like we said earlier, if we can help one veteran, it's all worth it. And so I can't imagine that we won't reach anyone. But to all the veterans out there, you're not alone. Whatever you're going through, we understand, and we want to be there, and we want to walk right alongside you. So contact us. Our contact info is out on the website. Phone number's out there. You can call us. The phone number on the website rings to all three of our phones, so someone's going to answer. And I mentioned it earlier. If you need something, I don't care if it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm here for you, so you're not alone.
Anything else you want to say?
I'm going to echo what Will said. We're here for them. That is why this organization was started, was to help veterans and to shamelessly serve them.
Right.
That's what we're doing. And I want to say that any veterans out there that have got a heart for this and want to help with this, come on, get involved. Let's go. Anybody can help.
Yeah.
We've got businesses that help us with food sometimes, with drinks. We've got people that help us with the ammunition. I stopped by and talked to the guys at North Georgia Reloaders the other day, and they have, I don't want to speak out of turn, but they have said that they would help.
Yes.
So anybody can help.
I think it all starts with the conversation.
It does.
So I encourage the veterans, business owners, people that want to volunteer, just to contact you guys, have the conversation. You'll find a place for them.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to say this. I'll wrap it up, and I'm not going to say it to you two because you two are weird about it. It make me feel awkward, so I'm not going to say it.
Your leg.
Absolutely. You've been playing footsie with me the whole time. It's weird, man. Stop it. No, I will say this. If you're listening, you're a veteran, because I really don't care if it makes you weird because I can't see your face. Thank you for your service. We appreciate it, and I'm going to encourage you as a veteran to contact referencepoint.org, or if you're a business, if you're somebody in the chamber listening, understand that if I know you, you're probably going to get a call from me. And the only reason we'll get a call from me is I simply want to make the introduction. And then after I say, hey, this is them, this is you, I'm out. But get ready for that phone call, because I think what they're trying to do for local veterans is awesome. Thank you both for being in here.
Thank you.
For
I appreciate it very much. Hey, do me a favor. If you've liked this, share it. Review us. That really helps us grow the podcast. I hope you have a great week. Talk to you next time. Thanks for listening to During the Break. If you have any questions or suggestions, shoot me an email at clint@connectchattanooga.com. That's clint@connectchattanooga.com. Or you can private message me on our Facebook page. As we get started, it would be extremely helpful if you could rate and review the podcast on iTunes. That will help us get more listeners. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, share it with your friends, and look for the next episode every Friday at 11 a.m.